The following video was an extension of a brief history of Nirvana. Now, you don't have to have seen that episode to understand this one, but if you want the full story, it would be best to watch the Nirvana video first. Hello and welcome to another episode of A Brief History. Today's episode, Foo Fighters. Ready, set, go. Seattle, Washington, 1994. Following the death of his friend and bandmate Kurt Cobain, former Nirvana drummer Dave Grohl was presented with an incredible offer, having been asked to become the new drummer of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Somewhat surprisingly, Grohl turned down this offer in favor of the opportunity to record an album's worth of solo material that he had written over the years. Over the next 5 days, Dave Grohl recorded around 15 original songs, and aside from the guitar part on the song Ecstatic, he performed every single voice and instrument on said songs himself. And one thing that Dave knew from the start of this project was that he did not want to be typecast as that guy from Nirvana. So, in an attempt to avoid the dreaded solo career hype and backlash, Dave Grohl decided to name this new project Foo Fighters, which was a World War II Air Force term for UFOs. With a cassette of originals now in hand, Grohl set out to recruit musicians to turn Foo Fighters into a full-fledged band. These efforts culminated in a lineup consisting of Dave Grohl on guitar and vocals, Nirvana's Pat Smear also on guitar, and Sunny Day Real Estate's Nate Mandel and William Goldsmith on bass and drums. And it was with this lineup that on July 4th, 1995, the Foo Fighters released their self-titled debut album on Roswell Records. And thanks to Dave's quirky and catchy songwriting and the band's soon-to-be award-winning music videos, they really took off. The following year, the band began to work on their follow-up record, The Color and the Shape. This was to be the first album in which every member of the band will be able to record their own parts. However, Dave ultimately ended up recording the drum tracks himself in order to get them exactly as he wanted, and as a result, Goldsmith's drum work only ended up being left on 2 of the album's tracks, these being Doll and Up in Arms. This, of course, did not sit well with Goldsmith, leading to his departure from the band prior to the album's release in 1997. He was eventually replaced by former Alanis Morissette drummer Taylor Hawkins, who appears in the album's artwork despite having contributed nothing to its music. Also, following the release of the record, Pat Smear announced his eventual departure from the band. Claiming to have been experiencing a lack of motivation, Pat agreed to stay in the band until they were able to find a replacement. This replacement came in the form of guitarist Franz Stahl from Dave Grohl's old band, Scream. Franz toured with the Foos for a few months and recorded a couple of non-album tracks with the band, but in the end it was decided that he just did not mesh with the band as a whole and was eventually fired. Despite the struggle present during the making of the album, The Color and the Shape helped solidify the Foo Fighters as a standalone band, landing at number 10 on the Billboard Top 200 charts thanks to hits like Everlong, Monkey Wrench, and My Hero. With the band now up one drummer but down one guitarist, the Foo Fighters decided to take a much more laid-back approach to their next LP. They did this by leaving their label, Capitol Records, and recording the entirety of their third album as a trio in the basement of Dave's house in Virginia. This resulted in a much more melodic and experimental sound, strongly showcased in the band's 1999 album There Is Nothing Left to Lose. Nothing Left to Lose not only boasted hits like Breakout and Learn to Fly, but it also earned the Foo Fighters their first ever Grammy Award, which they won for Best Rock Album in 2001. But success aside, the Foo Fighters were still without a second guitar player, so for the first time in their career, they had to hold auditions for a new guitarist. Their efforts eventually culminated in the introduction of former No Use for a Name guitarist Chris Shiflett, and it was with this newly built lineup that the Foo Fighters began work on their next studio effort. Unfortunately, the band was not satisfied with the quality or progress of this album, which led to infighting amongst the group, and this infighting was heightened by Dave Grohl's extensive work with another alternative rock band, Queens of the Stone Age. By 2002, the relationship with the band was teetering, with a breakup seeming highly possible. However, following a performance at the 2002 Coachella Festival, Dave and Taylor talked things out, and after 10 days, the Foo Fighters had re-recorded the entirety of their fourth album, One by One, and released it to the world in October of 2002. One by One continued the band's hit streak thanks to now classic tracks such as All My Life and Times Like These. The album peaked at number 3 on the Billboard charts and won the Foo Fighters their second ever Grammy Award. Following 2 more well-received records and the return of Pat Smear to the band, meaning they now had 3 guitarists, it was clear that the Foo Fighters could do no wrong. After the release of their album Echo, Silence, Patience, and Grace in 2007, Dave Grohl once again began to work with the Queens of the Stone Age frontman Josh Homme, this time to form a supergroup with Led Zeppelin bassist John Paul Jones called Them Crooked Vultures. This project lasted just between 2009 and 2010 and has since been on hiatus, most likely due to the Foo Fighters beginning work on their 7th studio album, Wasting Light. Wasting Light was a special album for multiple reasons. For one, the album was produced by Butch Vig, best known for producing Nirvana's Nevermind, and it was recorded entirely with analog equipment as opposed to computers. Wasting Light was also the first Foo Fighters record since the 90s to prominently feature the guitar work of Pat Smear. It also featured musical cameos from the likes of former Nirvana bassist Chris Novoselic and Husker Du guitarist and vocalist Bob Mould. Wasting Light was released on April 12, 2011 and debuted at number 1 on the Billboard charts, being the very first Foo Fighters record to do so. 2011 also saw the release of the Foo Fighters documentary film Back and Forth, which won a Grammy Award in 2012 alongside the multitude of Grammys awarded for the album Wasting Light. With the band now on top of the world, the Foo Fighters decided to go on a brief hiatus. During this break, Dave Grohl directed a documentary film on the now closed recording studio Sound City where Nirvana recorded Nevermind. This film's corresponding soundtrack contained multiple collaborations, the most notable of which was the Grammy Award-winning track Cut Me Some Slack, recorded by Dave Grohl, Pat Smear, Chris Novoselic, and Paul McCartney. When the Foo Fighters first started out back in the mid-1990s, I don't think anyone expected just how far they would come. Most people viewed the band as just a Dave Grohl solo gig, but it became so much more than that. The Foo Fighters have become arguably the biggest rock band out today. With every new record, they only seem to get bigger, and with an 8th LP being hinted at via social media, I think it's safe to say that pretty soon the Foo Fighters are going to get even bigger. I'll see you in a week, guys. DFTBA.
Honestly, had I taken this whole career thing seriously, I would have named it something else because it's the worst band name in the world.